Business, and we'll take leaders' questions under Standing Order 36, and I welcome Deputy Pearse Doherty, please.
Gurmaigad Ken Corlia is Gimwelcher ne scholarly at Unchos Connemara, Stastini Rash, Ekel, Itork Frastal, Arti Narakis, so Welcher Rove. I ask Ken Corlia, Ken Costas Maralta, or Corbru, Velchina, or Rebrini, against Chiley, or Foden Stat, or one Lehewell, against Nihoran. Maram ein rod beam ni smór seo nan duchlan at Chiley nan costas wufasa a wonyan le Kurimyani. At Hochim na kaimit rang Gulor etin ni smó nan dara morgiste na mis kise dogulor lordini. E mala clia tagan telly Kurimyani is diag ni smó na €1,000,000 in nine mise the rare survey around news talker na molliv. Our Foden stage Tisha is gan €1,000 in nine mise an van agus sin da fuiste awain. Is a fearing in the scale na federal tushmari fanart ni spodja agus go gair to Kelly Kurimyani a loedu agus a loedu sontasta. Ní smolje in new falchai sin féin our policy a lugu amag gasalir and doin the federal in Kelly Kurimyani a yeru da Hailey is feder sho yenu tree munu sontasa a horta nernial agus more wallerter sin more wallerter no menu sin later for Kelly yechrian. Minister, the cost of living crisis is crippling workers and families throughout the state on a daily basis, and nothing highlights the challenges that are faced by households more than the outrageous cost of childcare, which is the equivalent, or in some cases more, than a second mortgage or a month's rent for many, many people. In Dublin, childcare fees come in at over €1,200 per month per child, according to a recent News Talk survey. Statewide, they are over €800 per month on average. Now, many parents, Minister, especially women, are forced out of the workforce as they struggle to afford to go back to work due to these crippling costs. If they are lucky enough in the first place to be able to secure a place for their child. It is a scandalous situation, Minister, and one that needs to be rectified. And the reality is that parents can't wait any longer for action to reduce childcare fees. Later today, we in Sinn Féin will publish our policy proposals to set out how we can cut childcare fees so that they are affordable for the many families who are currently fleeced. And this can be done by providing significant additional funding to the sector in exchange for the providers cutting fees by 2/3. And this is in the gift of the government. If you listen to Morning Ireland this morning, or indeed yesterday, you would have heard the struggles of parents, staff and providers. They are at their wits' end, Minister. Parents simply cannot afford these fees that they're being asked to pay. Highly skilled staff are struggling financially to remain in jobs that they love. And services are equally under enormous pressure, financial pressure, to remain viable. So the system is broken, Minister. Our proposals would cut fees for parents, but also ensure that providers receive crucial funding to invest in their services. It would also ensure fairer pay for highly educated workforce. Now, €270 million is the additional public investment that is required. And let me say this, it would be the best money spent in any budget. It would be an important investment in our children's future, and it would be a major step in helping families hit by the cost of living crisis. And it needs to be done. It must be done, Minister. Families simply can't keep waiting for this government to take this crisis seriously. It is time to cut childcare fees and to cut them by 2/3. So can I ask you, Minister, do you agree with me that this year's budget is the opportune time to slash childcare fees to ensure families get a much-needed break from these ludicrous costs? And will you to commit to that type of ambition that we spell out, that we want to achieve, that Sinn Féin would deliver, and that is cutting fees by 2/3 for families?
Minister, please.
This year's budget and last year's budget together. And it's important the measures done last year and this September's budget were designed together, because listening to Morning Ireland this morning, I think anyone at home would have heard Minister O'Gorman setting out that there are real challenges, but there are ways we can fix it. There are three challenges. Firstly, the economic sustainability for the providers. And that's why last year's budget was important, because in that Minister O'Gorman secured €221 million for providers on the understanding, as is provided from this September with the transition fund in the meantime, but on the understanding that there would not be an increase in fees. Secondly, key issue, low pay for workers in the sector, and there's a real issue that we don't value caring enough work in our state. And critically there, in addressing that, the Labour Court has published draft first employment regulation orders for early years educators and school-age childcare providers. And I understand the Joint Labour Committee for Early Years Services will meet shortly with a view to agreeing proposals for one or more EROs to set minimum rates of pay for different roles in the sector. It's the second aspect to this. The third aspect is the high cost for parents. You're correct. And this is where this October's budget connects into last. Because by providing improvements to the National Childcare Scheme subsidies to parents in this September's budget, it'll be done in a context that it won't be gobbled up by the providers who've already got that fund and agreed that they won't be able to provide fees. That is strategic thinking, fixing a real problem, causing a huge improvement for households that are in real difficulty because of the high inflation caused by mainly international factors. And actually, we're delivering it in government. 2 years in, the same way we're delivering in a whole range of different ways. So yes, I welcome if Sinn Féin are coming out today with similar proposals to support childcare. But Minister Gorman has been at it for the last year and a half, planning strategically, making sure the public money invested is spent well, that it goes to the parents, and more than anything else, it goes to care for our children. We have to look at other areas. We have to look at children reared by parents in the home to make sure that they're not disadvantaged whatever we do in the budget. Look at ways that we leave the choice with the parents where it's their best place to decide what is the right way to go. But there's been a transformative change in the last 2 years under Minister Gorman's leadership towards recognising that we need to pay people properly in this sector, that the operators were not in a viable economic model and needed that support. That 221 million euros was not insignificant. And yes, the third leg of this multi-annual approach so that it works effectively, increasing the subsidy to all parents this year as a way of reducing the cost of living. So I'm glad if Sinn Féin are looking at something similar or similarly interested, but we're delivering it and doing it in government this September, last October, and continuing then to review through the Labour Court, through improving the pay of the workers. That's all real change. There will be a real benefit to parents across this country, and I commend Minister Gorman for what he's doing.
Thank you, Minister. Deputy Doherty.
Minister, we've been trying to get governments to slash childcare fees for years now. For years now. Let me put some of the facts here, because you talk about delivering. In the last 4 years, half of which you've been in government and Minister Gorman has been the minister responsible, childcare fees in Dublin have gone up by 20%. That's what you're delivering. You're not delivering the cuts that we need to see. I put it very clearly, Sinn Féin has a very clear policy in relation to this. We can cut childcare costs by 2/3 per family. 2/3 per family. You talk about delivering no increases in September. We need to see substantial reductions. We need ambition here, because families know out there. That's why they're spilling onto the airwaves in Morning Ireland or to local radio stations. They're being fleeced by the cost of childcare, the highest in Europe, one of the highest in the OECD. So I ask you again, we put forward a proposal in terms of slashing, not just cutting, slashing childcare costs by 2/3. The ambition is there within Sinn Féin. My question to you, is the ambition there within government to meet that? Because this can be done, and this budget is the time to do this in the middle of a cost of living crisis.
Budget 2021, Sinn Féin in your own documentation committed to providing 167 million euros to childcare. Mr Gorman's budget delivered 221 million, 60 million more. That's what actually happened. That was what was committed. It wasn't just that. In supporting parents and recognising the real importance of getting early years right, and right down to the early weeks, we increased paid parental leave from 2 weeks per parent to 7 weeks. And yes, we need to go further and develop further, but that's a real practical change. And the increase in subsidy in the budget won't be done until September, but there will be a significant significant. Every single member of government parties has said the same thing. We invest in childcare in this budget. That's clear. But the clever thing about it, it was done in a way by what Minister Gorban did last year's budget,
Minister, the
that
time is
every
up.
penny of that goes to the parents. And that's the real practical improvement.
Please, Deputy Doherty, you've asked your question, you've got your answer, please. Please, Deputy, can I call in